Shalom, all praises be unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the bishop elders at Great Millstone who wrote well to us his truth. And salutes unto the Ark, we continue to push the word in truth and in sincerity. Now, this is just line backing off the last show I did about those 28 Asherite girls, schoolgirls over there in Colombia, which got into playing with Ouija boards and ended up, not having the best time, wound up in hospital, and then, just pretty much building on that topic, man, of witches, over here in England. It's got a history of witches, man, and you get into the English history of, the Dark Ages and Jake and the history of the church, and various setups and things, pretty much all the established foundations, be it corporations, financial institutions, major businesses, healthcare systems, all sectors really, it has a root in witchcraft, man, over here in England. And, England is it's a weird-ass environment to be in, man. And, anyways, let me read some of this. So they actually had witch trials in England. There were many famous European witch trials, and the witch trials in England and Scotland included many stories of famous witches and where they practiced around the United Kingdom. Alright, now it says, this is somebody saying, I visited an island which, by the way, did not suffer from the same hysteria as the rest of Europe when it came to witches. There were over 2,000 witch trials in France and in Spain between 1609 and 1614, when up to 7,000 were accused of witchcraft. History of witchcraft in England. The witch trials in England began in the 15th century and lasted until the 18th century. The witch trials in England's 17th century were at the most intense stage during the English Civil War, the Puritan era, and the mid-17th century. Over 500 to 1,000 people were executed in Britain as witches, most of whom were women. 90% is estimated. And I actually wanted to bring it out in the last video, but it kind of slipped me when it comes to, going off into other spiritual realms and left-hand spirits. It's always women. Women really push alternative ways other than the Lord. The women always push other ways, man. Other gods, other philosophies, they're always into that. So excuse me, it's nothing striking about that, because women be into that, man. So up to 90% of them witches were women, man. The figures are not exact because many records were destroyed over the centuries. When Elizabeth inherited the throne of England in 1558, Catholics had to go back into hiding. But, if I can get rid of this. Yeah, but in remote wild places such as Lancashire, priests celebrated the Mass in secret. So you got all these places in England still have these names today, but there's a lot of history in them, man. It was Elizabeth in year 1562 who passed a law known as an Act Against Conjurations, Enchantments and Witchcraft. Because this is when Jake was still up in there, The punishment was death. It was a death penalty, but only if harm had been caused. Small offences were punished by imprisonment. So they got a document here. the divorcery of witches in Anfoy to Feverall Queries, Norfolk. Norfolk. I've driven there before. In the early 17th century, when King James VI came to power in 1603 after Elizabeth died, it was he who changed the Witchcraft Act inspired by the Norfolk Berwick witches' trial in Scotland in 1590. Witch trials were most frequent in England. In the first half of the 17th century, they reached their most intense phase during the English Civil War of the 1640s and the Puritan era of the 1650s. This was a period of intense witch hunts known for witch hunters such as Matthew Hopkins. So they were trying to get rid of them over here, and they were actually getting hunted down, man. Let's read about this one. Eleanor, Duchess of Gloucestershire, or Gloucester. Eleanor was an English noblewoman who was a mistress to the Duke of Gloucestershire, and then became his second wife in 1441. He divorced her when she was charged with witchcraft by King Henry the Sixth. Immortalized by Shakespeare in his play King Henry, Eleanor was accused of trying to assassinate the king using witchcraft. Eleanor had consulted astrologers that told her the king would fall ill and die. So the astrologers, what they doing? They were getting copy that. Astrologers, I mean, you know what it is, but for the edification's sake of things, an astrologer. Astrologer, a person who uses astrology to tell others about their character or to predict their future. Alright. Now, that's the occupation, the office, but that would take you into astrology. Astrology is a range of divinatory practices recognized in pseudoscientific since the 18th century to discern information about human affairs and terrestrial events by studying the apparent positions of celestial objects. Okay, so pretty much that's the tree of get into the scriptures. It speaks about in Genesis, the tree of knowledge, good and evil. I could get into that. That's pretty much the zodiac. Okay. Now, can that be used in righteousness? Yeah, but the practices of that kind of been lost. But in the current, modern zodiac, that's not like the ancient one, how they read it and stuff. But pretty much using it on the left-hand side, reading of the stars and, the sky. It goes back to the tree, man, and pretty much getting information of what's going to happen via those means rather than praying to the Lord. And the Lord given signs is that witchcraft, man. Birth charts, as you get star signs. You talk to a lot of these women out here, and they're into that. Some of them, what's your star sign? You're a Libra, you're an Aries, all of that stuff. And, I actually dealt getting to know a woman, and then, I don't need to get into it, man, but pretty much I was up in her house, her spot, and she started telling me about how she spoke to the spirit. She did tarot cards on me when I weren't there. She told me she lit some candles and spread some cards out and got in communication with the spirit guides, and the spirit guides told her that that he's protected and he's from the right hand side. So she started asking, what is it you do? What are you into? What do you do? you know so this thing's real, man. This thing's real, bro. And it goes, over here in England, that's why there's a heavy demonic spirit. There's certain locations you go to and you feel the spirits more. London is like the heaviest. You're going to feel demonic vibrations over here in England. Specifically, like you got certain parts of East London, East Central, St. Paul's, where that whole area, Aldgate, London Bridge, Canary Wharf, heavy demonic presences, man. Yeah. I got stories about Canary Wharf, man. I remember one time I was walking through there. It was, I went to one cinema joint with my woman, and we finished the movie late and was walking through Canary Wharf. And because in there you got like a shop. It's the financial district of the whole world, really, but England. You got like a shopping city in the middle, kind of restaurants and things. We were walking through there to come out. It was late. And looking up at them skyscrapers. I think it was J.P. Morgan was walking past there in that big square in Canary Wharf. A couple of years ago, she goes, I feel scared. I was like, what's wrong? What's up with you, man? She's talking about she's feeling heavy vibrations. I didn't want to get into too with her because scare her and stuff. But yeah, man, because that whole area is built on the ley line. So the history of England is just not, it's real over here, man. These people been practicing this shit from ages ago, man. So these are history of particular witches. You got witches that attend Stonehenge. This is a false picture of King James, by the way. I don't even want to go on this site anymore. The horrific history of witch trials in England. Let's talk about Henry VIII. Pretty much a lot of the same history. Witch hunters, the trials. I could get into this more, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a couple of scriptures, man, because that's what it's about. Divination. I should have put this word instead in chat, man, because I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's here. Yeah, Numbers 23:23, and it says, "Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, I quote. Neither is there any divination against Israel. According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and of Israel, why after Most High wrought." So specifically with the elect, you're not gonna have any divination or witchcraft against the elect. You can try, but it's not gonna work, man, because the Lord has got his protective hedge over around his men. The elect. The elect women as well, and children. Things aren't gonna go wrong for them. You got the witch of Endor. I don't want to get into that, actually. That's a whole separate thing, but you got a lot of witches out here, man. Witchcraft of Solomon. which is still around to this day. The seals of Solomon. The key of Solomon, it says in the Yiddish Hebrew, Maftiah Shlomo. The greater key of Solomon, which, by the way, the name Solomon in Hebrew is Shalamah, which means peaceable. Pretty much Solomon got into witchcraft, man. And you got particular guys in Israel that can't wrap their heads around that right now. What do you mean? You know what he did? He fucking did, man. He got into it in his older age. But he paid for that as Yahweh Shai, man. I'll chastise him with the rod of men. See if I can get that. Chastise him. I want to get them scriptures out. Yep, 2 Samuel 7:14. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the straps of the children of men. So a part of Yahweh Shai's hideous whipping was because he went off as Solomon. And he also paid for his sins for us and for us, man. When he got up into that, you got, these different fraternities and these different societies and universities, okay? The witchcraft Solomon is about to this day, man. But we have to know both sides, man. The day in day ye shall be gods. Knowing good and evil, man. Taking part of that fruit. Using philosophies, man. For Genesis 3:5, for the power knowing, for the Most High doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. But in the scriptures say, I have said ye are gods. Let's get that. I have said ye are gods, but ye shall die like men. So for us to be gods, it was a necessary evil. Alright, there is a necessary evil for us to be gods, man. Because essentially, if it's not the path of righteousness, it's witchcraft, man. Psalms 82:6, I have said ye are gods, and all of you are the children of the Most High. So to be a god, you have to know good and evil. So we have to understand the bad side first. Or the bad side, so we can get the good side. It was a necessary evil to be profane, to be outside of the temple, man. So I could keep going, man. But England's got a heavy. That's just like a pretty much prelude video, man. There's a lot more to get into it, but surface level, England's got a huge history in witchcraft, man. And it's all backed by scriptures, man. So now we're coming to the end of the wickedness. We're going to be transformed into pure righteousness. Okay, the scriptures say that. Is it in Isaiah 60? People shall be righteous, shall be all. Let's see, so. Yeah, here we go. Isaiah 60:21. Thy people also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. So as we were altogether wicked, now we've accomplished that lesson of not having a good time on the wickedness. Now we're going to be transformed into being altogether righteous in the kingdom, thus being a nation of gods, man. Alright. Knowing good and evil, Genesis 3:5, man. Anyways, that I'm out, man. Shalom.